villains. Oftentimes, they define the story more than any other factor. Especially in an RPG like Pokémon where you play as a mostly silent protagonist with nothing to really offer to the plot. The Joker is what made The Dark Knight, Thanos made Infinity War, Syndrome made The Incredibles, and the Screenslaver made Incredibles 2 bad. And in Pokémon, the villains are all over the dang place. So in this video, we're gonna break down the numerous shifts the Pokémon villains have made over time, and why some of them aren't necessarily evil anymore. Starting from the beginning, Team Rocket is about as generic of an evil team as you can guess. I mean, they don't even build rockets, what a darn shame. But despite their relatively shallow intentions to just steal and sell Pokémon, they do prove themselves to be dangerous threats at many points throughout the story. Well, not Jesse and James, but the others. Though at first they appear to just be a lowly gang of petty thieves, one of their very first acts in the Gen 1 games is unaliving Cubone's mother. Sorry, it's still the first minute of the video, I can't use any edgy words yet. And this shows just how far they'll go to achieve their goals. As the story unfolds, it's revealed just how much influence Team Rocket truly has over the Kanto region. They operate the Celadon City game corner from the shadows, they have insiders working for Silphco who later aided in its takeover, and Giovanni is even revealed to be the shadow leader of the Viridian City Gym. In the Pokémon anime, they even expand Team Rocket's influence to the Pokémon Mansion and the creation of Mewtwo. Something that was so well executed that Mewtwo almost feels synonymous with Team Rocket, despite this not being the case in the games. Team Rocket's motivations may not be as deep or complex as future teams in the series, but I do appreciate how they offer a more grounded, mafia-like tone. And even after being weakened and losing their leader in the Johto games, Team Rocket doesn't slow down on their abuse and mistreatment of Pokémon in Gen 2. Cutting off and selling Slowpoke tails for profit, and even developing a device that forcibly evolves Pokémon against their will. Which apparently is why the Red Gyarados is red. The more you know. However, this new iteration of Team Rocket offers a fresh take on them. They almost feel desperate trying to find Giovanni instead of ruthless and powerful like they were in Gen 1. And it feels like a neat way to continue their story. So, is Team Rocket kinda basic? Yeah, but I'd say they fulfilled their role nicely. They set the bar for what an evil team should be when the franchise was still in its infancy, and are obviously still one of the most iconic evil teams today. In Generation 3, a pair of new evil teams was introduced for the first time, Team Aqua and Team Magma, who admittedly are a bit goofier than their predecessor. Look, I'm not arguing that their motives are perfectly sound. I already did a best and worst villain video where I confidently ranked Archie and Maxie as some of the worst. Hey, I live in North Carolina and the summers freaking suck, but never have I ever wished for more ocean. I just wait for September. The best month, by the way. Anyway, despite being more akin to eco-extremists rather than traditional mobsters like Team Rocket, Team Aqua and Team Magma do bring about the first true Doomsday event in the Pokémon franchise, as the awakening of Groudon or Kyogre, or both in the case of Emerald, threatens all life on the planet. They're definitely not as explicitly evil in their acts as Team Rocket, but their acts certainly have much larger ramifications for the world. They may be dumb, but hey, just like your local crackhead, they get stuff done. And because of this, I would argue that Team Magma and Team Aqua actually set the template for future teams more so than Team Rocket did. Because right after them, Team Galactic said, hey, that's cute, but we're intentionally destroying the world this time. What is wrong with these people? Disregarding their clinical insanity, Team Galactic is another very threatening team. They steal Pokémon on numerous occasions, take over the Valley Windworks, one grunt even threatens to blow up the Great Marsh for literally no reason. Actually, please do, that area kinda sucks. Wow, Beebarrel and Staravia, what exotic marshland Pokemon. And then of course they do eventually end up blowing up Lake Valor and imprisoning the Lake Trio, which is also pretty bad. But most importantly, they once again recreate the all-important Doomsday event on an even grander scale this time. I would say that there's no doubt that Team Galactic is one of Pokemon's most evil teams. They don't cloak their actions in noble intentions like Team Magma and Team Aqua did, claiming that they were bettering the world for humanity or Pokemon. Instead, everything Team Galactic does, from petty thievery to recreating the entire universe, is done in their own self-interest. Now hang on, because I'm not saying a team has to threaten to destroy the world every time to be considered a good evil team. That would get kinda boring kinda fast. Take for instance, Team Plasma. Under the leadership of Getsis, Team Plasma is one of the most cunning and devious evil teams without the goal of destroying the world. Rather, Team Plasma's actions seem far more political and morally gray than outright evil like previous teams. Yes, there are still instances of them stealing or abusing Pokemon, particularly at the beginning of Black and White, but at the end of the day, they feel more like a cult who worships their King N's pure ideology that Pokemon battling is immoral and should be ended with the liberation of all Pokemon. To do this, they seek to create the perfect hero in their king who can gain the trust of Unova's legendary dragon. Using this dragon, N would conquer the Pokemon League, become the strongest trainer, and change people's beliefs through fear. Of course, there's another layer to this plot as Getsus reveals that he was manipulating N the entire time and making people release their Pokemon, so that he could amass them all and use them for world domination, similar to Giovanni and Team Rocket. It may not be an Academy Award-winning story, but hey, for a Pokemon game, it's pretty darn solid and compelling, and offers a much fresher take on Pokemon villains and their motivations. With the fracture between the team occurring in Black 2 and White 2, it shows that there was a much more nefarious side to Team Plasma beneath their wholly moral mission. And I like that the sequels make this distinction between team members who genuinely thought they were doing the right thing, and others who were just in it for the power it brought them. Team Plasma has the perfect balance between evil in pursuit of power and good in pursuit of justice. And then, Team Flare comes along. Team Flare is a really weird team, and by that I mean confusing more than anything. They pretty much spend most of X and Y just recreating old Team Rocket schemes, stealing fossils, stealing the Master Ball, attacking the power plant, using radio waves to make Pokemon go berserk, and somehow this all leads to a Team Galactic-esque plot to wipe out all of humanity and preserve the beauty of the world. I don't know, man, it just feels like Lysander and the scientist plans were on a completely different page from the rest of the organization. I'll give them credit, they are a threatening force even if they are remarkably more goofy than previous teams. And hey, being goofy is nothing new. I'd say every evil team has their fair share of goofy moments. It's just way more pronounced and in your face here than it was before. Nonetheless, Team Flare does have this consistent theme of elitism oozing from them. From their fashionable outfits to their millionaire grunts and admins to their belief that they should literally be the only ones who survive the apocalypse. Their presentation may be inconsistent and jarring at times, but still quite evil, I would say. And then in Pokemon Sun and Moon, they double down on this new, goofier approach, as Team Skull is almost entirely just a gang of comic-relieving dorks. Again, credit where credit is due, the Alola games and other media definitely lean more into a humorous tone than previous entries in the series, and Team Skull certainly helps elevate that tone. Like, y'all remember that time that the two grunts just swished places because you couldn't recognize them? But it's also worth noting that Team Skull is not the primary antagonistic force in these games. Rather, the Aether Foundation and Lusamine are the game's true villains, who end up exploiting Team Skull to further their own goals later in the story. And I will say, I actually really like this twist and the Aether Foundation as a whole. Not only do they break the mold of the traditional evil Pokemon team plotline, but the idea of a subset of people inside of a charitable organization secretly being corrupt and using their funds for ulterior motives is cool, and unfortunately, very realistic. I'm on to you, Goodwill. In a way, they are very similar to the members of Neo Team Plasma who were always aware of Getsus' goals and didn't enlist for N's more altruistic motives. It could certainly be argued that the Aether Foundation were the peak of Pokemon's evil organizations, even if they weren't your traditional evil team. Still, Lusamine and the Aether Foundation's motives are a bit more complex than past antagonists in the series. Lusamine acts more out of obsession for the Ultra Beast and finding a way back to her husband, and in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, the whole organization seems bent on trying to conquer Necrozma by any means possible that make themselves appear more noble and self-sacrificing. They're an organization that masks ill intentions with good deeds, and I think it's handled quite well. After the Alola region games radically redefined what an evil team could be, the Galar games took that and ran with it. About as well as I ran in high school gym class, which is more like a stumbling jog. For the second game in a row, we get an evil team that is merely diverting attention from a much larger devious organization, as Team Yell distracts from the true motives of Macrocosmos for most of the game. Though, perhaps distracts is the wrong word to use there, because Macrocosmos pretty much does absolutely nothing for like 90% of the game. They're basically just background NPCs to Rose and Oleana. Unlike the Aether Foundation, they are largely invisible and have little to no impact on the story. As for Team Yell, I can't really even call them villains, as they're basically just rabid fans of Marnie put together by her older brother Piers. While they originally set out with the goal of supporting Marnie and getting publicity for the struggling town of Spikemouth, some do go a bit too far in their antics and start purposely sabotaging the other gym trainers. Yeah, they're a commentary on toxic sports fan bases, something that I'm sure is a problem in Britain as much as it is in America. As for Macrocosmos and Chairman Rose, they're a bit of a departure from previous antagonists, as they're more just misguided adults with good intentions than genuinely evil, which doesn't really explain why they act so cartoonishly evil right before you and Hop go to Rose Tower, but that's just Sword and Shield forgetting how to write again. Honestly, I would be fine with this if it didn't happen immediately after Sun and Moon. Being only a couple years removed from Alola, this storyline mostly just feels like a very bad reskin of what we previously got in Sun and Moon. It's definitely still moving away from the established norms of Gens 1 through 6, but I do wish it was executed a bit better. As for the final evil team in the core games, if you can even call them that, honestly, we have Team Star. I say this because as the story unfolds in Scarlet and Violet, it's revealed that Team Star's members were actually the victims of bullying at the Academy, not the other way around. But when they went to confront their bullies, a scuffle broke out and they were framed for most of the wrongdoing. Admittedly, I don't hate this twist, and it's a neat subversion of expectations for the villains to actually be the ones trying to reform the Academy. If I had one critique of this plotline, it would be that we never actually see any of the Academy's real bullies. We only ever hear about them through exposition dumps and flashbacks. It also does leave Scarlet and Violet with a noticeable villainy gap compared to other games. Team Star isn't evil, Penny isn't evil, even the AI professor isn't evil, it's just doing whatever the Paradise Protection Protocol says. I'm not saying this is an explicitly bad thing though, as it actually makes the narrative feel a bit more nuanced than past Pokemon games, where characters are just evil for the sake of being evil sometimes. Here, characters have much more complex motivations, even if I'd argue that some of them weren't explored to the depths that they should have been. In summary, evil teams have gone through nearly a complete subversion in the past few Pokemon titles. They started as generic mobsters, grew into doomsday cultists, and then gradually became more tragic and morally gray over time. And while the teams themselves may not be as threatening as they were in years past, I honestly don't mind it that much. Mostly because we have still been getting occasional good villains. Sun and Moon, Lusamine, and Volo definitely stand out as great villains who act as evil as any of their predecessors. If anything, I appreciate how the scope of Pokemon's villainous teams has grown and evolved over time. They've actually done a good job of showing how evil comes in all shapes and forms, even if it's not always executed as well as it could be. I think mostly this is because Pokemon games have largely shifted towards themes that revolve more around healing and understanding rather than outright vilifying a group of people. It's a more tame franchise in many respects than it used to be, and maybe having the big bads be a group of mafia members or terrorists is just seen as too controversial. Would I like to see a return to the norm? Maybe someday, but I don't mind what we've been getting. Except for Sword and Shield, that was just bad. So what do you think? Do you like this new approach that Game Freak is taking with their villains, or do you want something a bit more traditional, like Team Rockets or Team Galactic? Let me know in the comment section down below. But don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you guys next time.